Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick, and in this video we're going to be running through the carbon shoes that we used for this race season. So running from probably the middle to the end of summer through to the autumn marathon season. Lots of the Run Testers have been out. We've ticked off, 3 majors in Chicago, Berlin and London. Done a few other marathons as well, Abingdon Marathon, some half marathons. So between us, we've been out testing a lot of the best carbon shoes on the market in all-out race efforts. And we thought we could summarise all of our opinions on those shoes in one video here. We also do have, obviously, our full carbon shoe roundup if you want a little bit more of a catalogue guide to every single carbon shoe out there. And we have individual race videos for a lot of these events if you want to dive in a bit more detail on any of them. Tom's also actually done a full run-through of all the races he's done in the Endorphin Pro 3 if you want to just dive into details on that shoe. But we thought it would be good to get all of those race impressions collated in one place, and what we're doing in this video is basically talking about the races we've done, the shoes we've used, how the races went, how much we enjoyed the shoes, and then crucially we'll give our take on whether that shoe would be our top choice going forward for future target races. Right, let's dive into it with Gill.
Carbon plate racing. I've done a fair bit of it this summer and autumn. I mean, all racing's carbon plated now, isn't it? Except for track, but anyway. So let's start off with the PB ones. The Adidas Adizero Pro 2. Not the 3, because I don't have that, the 2. So at the start of July, I ran my 5k PB, that's 18:58, yes, just snuck under 19 minutes, at the Podium 5k in Leicestershire, which was around a cycle track, and I wore the Adidas Adizero Pro 2s there. Ironically, it was the launch of the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s, but I didn't have them at that point. It was wet, it was pretty rubbish conditions, and they did great. The Adizeros just felt aggressive, they got me going, and no 5k is ever easy, but they got me round. So much so, I loved them that a month, or just under a month later, at the end of July, I ran 18:58 in the county road champs at Mallory Park. So again, really consistent. It took everything, but they did really well. But then later on in the year, in September, I ran a 10k on what should have been an amazing course. I ran 39:09, which is way outside my PB. I was in good shape. I should have run really well. Just from 3 miles in, had nothing at all. And then, of course, we did the Run Testers roundup of carbon shoes, and I discovered that they're actually on the heavier end of the spectrum. And since then, I've not worn them for racing because I'm fickle. And also other contenders have come along. However, after that shocker of a 10k, I went and did a half marathon. I had no idea what to expect, and I took the easy way and bought myself a brand new pair of box fresh Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2s because they were on offer. And they did the trick. I ran 84 flat, which was a 22-second PB on a Drake Water course, which is lumpy and a little bit, it was quite windy as well. And I didn't feel battered the next day, which is exactly what those shoes do, isn't it? They're bankers, they keep your legs fresh, and they're just dead easy. There's, you might like the Alpha Flies better, but some people get on with them, some people don't. It's rare to find someone, I think, who doesn't get on with a Vaporfly, and, they're an easy choice. Then, of course, we come on to the Endorphin Pro 3s, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s, which I love, and are probably the closest thing, I think, to the Nike Vaporflies. I ran in those for a very muggy evening club 5 mile race because I knew I wasn't in great shape, but I could still get a really good run out of them, and I ran faster than last year. I then ran the Midlands Road Relay, four-stage road relays, which is about a 2.6 mile course, and around 16:27 on that. So they can really take the punchier courses as well, and it's not an easy one. It's got a big hill in the middle of it. And then, of course, I ran London Marathon with Nick, fellow run tester, in 3 hours, 2 minutes and something or other. And they were great there. They kept us rolling. I did have some discomfort under the ball of my foot at the end of that, which caused me a bit of grief. But I think that was probably more to do with my mechanics and my lack of training than the shoes. In fact, I'm 99.9% certain it has nothing to do with the shoes because I've not had any other problems with them at all. So yeah, I've raced short, middle and long in the Endorphin Pro 3s. And then, of course, a quick hat tip to my old favourites, the New Balance Fuel Cell RC Elite 2, which I raced Manchester in at the start of the year, 2:54 there. And since then, I've run, well, a couple of 10Ks that haven't gone well. I think it's just 10Ks for me, actually. Haven't gone well this year. One was very windy. One I was coming back from COVID. But they just feel like a safe bet. And actually, the only thing I would say is I ended up going out too fast on both of those 10Ks. I think they actually are a lot bouncier than you realise sometimes. I know people have said they're very squishy, but I think, I find it harder to pace in them because they feel so normal that maybe you don't realise quite what they're doing. But for Valencia Marathon on the 4th of December, I'm afraid to say at the moment, I think I'm going to go with the old stalwarts, the Vaporflies, because they're just such a safe bet, which is what everyone's fighting against, isn't it? It's Nike that kicked all this off, and you're always going to be fighting against them, I think. I'm close to saying the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, but I think it's probably going to be the Nikes. Sorry.
Okay then, Nick, come on. What shoes have you been running in or racing in over the course of the summer, and which ones did you really like?
So yeah, my autumn marathon season was all building up towards Berlin as the main target race, in London the week after, but did some races early in the summer, and for those I started with the Alphafly 2 actually to give it some good race testing. I did a 5-mile race and a 10k race in the shoe. Both of them were in heavy mileage weeks, so I was pretty tired. One of the reasons I use the shoe is because I think it's extremely comfortable and fast even when you're quite tired, and I have to say it really worked very well for those short races. Like, I was really surprised in both the 5 mile and the 10k. I was getting to the end, starting to flag, going, this shoe is going to get really annoying in a minute because it's so big, and it just kind of didn't. Like all the Nike shoes, it really does tip you forward and put you in a very advanced position to just keep rolling forward even as you start to flag. And I think it wasn't ideal in those races because they were short and it's not the lightest shoe to then pick up and sprint if you feel good again at the end, that kind of thing. But I could see how that would be very good in the marathon. So I enjoyed certainly racing in the Alphafly 2, but I felt that for my full marathons this year, I thought I was just going to use a slightly lighter shoe, which is why I opted for the Vaporfly in the end. Berlin was the big goal race, ran a 2:28 in the Vaporfly, back in the shoe. Haven't run the marathon for a couple of years actually. The reason I went for it in the end was marathon training wore me down basically, and I just couldn't get on with the cushier shoes like the Alphafly and the Endorphin Pro 3. My legs I just weren't feeling great. Every time the shoe got too soft, I started to feel I wasn't running as well. And actually, the Vaporfly is very soft, but it's a firmer feeling than those shoes, and it really just helped me roll along in the marathon. And certainly towards the end of Berlin, really, really tiring, just kept tipping me over. Now, do I think that maybe I could go quicker, deeper into a race in a more cushioned shoe if I had the legs for it? I think I probably would. I think my top pick for a marathon probably would still be the Alphafly, I think, just because I think I would have felt stronger further into the race if I'd been a bit better going in. But on the day, there was no better shoe than the Vaporfly. Still works incredibly well for marathons, as everyone could probably imagine. Other races I've done, Pleshy Half with you, Tom, did in the old faster Puma shoe, and that was a controlled half effort. It was 2 weeks from Berlin. The shoe surprised me with how good it was, I have to say. Like, really rolled through very nicely. It wasn't extremely comfortable. It wasn't a shoe that I'd pushed to full marathon distance. Half, I think, was the limit for me, but I do find that it was a lot more efficient and enjoyable than I expected. I thought it was going to be a bit of a weird shoe, but actually once you start running fast, it feels very good, very fluid. Say now, I don't think this will be a top contender for my racing going forward, but I certainly enjoyed doing that race, testing it. And then to round off race season, I did London a week after Berlin in the Endorphin Pro 3, ran that with Gill, so it was a nice easy pace for me, and more or less confirmed what I thought about the Endorphin Pro 3, which is that it's the most best daily trainer in the world, and that you can run very comfortably at so many different paces in it. So what was a fairly relaxed run for me over a long distance was really comfortable, felt very smooth, just enjoyed the run more and more as it went on, and yeah, I do think it's a great shoe. I'd like to go out and angle it. I've done a hard 5k in this shoe, and that was really enjoyed doing that as well, but I think it's a good shoe that I'd be keen to race in again on fresher legs.
So from all of those shoes that you've just gone through, would any of these be your first choice, your A race picks for future races?
I think for the short distance races, Vaporfly and the Endorphin Pro 3 are my top picks, definitely. Which one I choose between, it's a bit tough actually. I was blown away by how good the Endorphin Pro 3 felt in a park run I did when I did it as part of a 4x5k session. The park run was the third one, and I just couldn't believe how good it felt on the foot. So the only thing with the Endorphin Pro 3 is I think it's softened up quite a lot for me over time. I prefer how it felt when it was a new shoe, firmer shoe. So that's what I would like best from it. As it got softer, I think it doesn't work for me quite as well, and I think maybe tilts better towards the marathon distance. But yeah, I think Vaporfly or Endorphin Pro 3 would be my top choices, 5k, 10k. Both are great marathon options as well, but I think when I'm fully on it. Legs are really engaged and I'm feeling good all over. I've got no niggles or anything like that. I think one of the Alpha Flies would be my best choice for a marathon and the half marathon. I love the Alpha Fly 1. It's nicer looking and more normal shoe for me than the Alpha Fly 2, but yeah, it'll be a bit of a toss-up on the day which of those two I'd go for, but they're probably still my top pick for the full distance. But these two guys, in certain cases, would still be the best marathon option out there for lots of people, but I prefer them for the shorter stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I recently ran 2 races in this. This is the Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung. I did the Royal Parks half marathon here in London, and I did the Abingdon marathon just outside in Oxford. And I basically ran a 1:27 for the half, which was my 3rd fastest ever half marathon time. And I did a 3:01 over the marathon distance, which is my 3rd fastest ever marathon, quite close to my kind of 2:57 PB. Now I ran both of those races on feel and both of them in this shoe. And I have to say that I absolutely loved racing in this. You've obviously got that whacking great sort of stack, 50mm stack of Light Strike Pro foam that's giving you such a lot of bounce, such a lot of spring, such a lot of energy. And I think it's really kind of saving those kind of tired legs later into the race. That works really nicely with the carbon energy rods that are in the forefoot. Particularly, I think, when you're running in a straight line and you're kind of engaging this section, if you're landing down on that section and really getting that mid to forefoot engaged, that's when I feel those carbon energy rods kick in the most. But what I will say as well is that sort of the stack of foam at the back here, it almost kind of runs into the heel, and the whole kind of compression, even if you land a little bit more heel, it doesn't sink quite as far down as something like, I think, like the Alpha Fly might, and then return. You push down into it, there's quite a kind of firm response, quite a kind of quite a solid base to run off. And I think actually that really worked nicely for giving extra kind of punch and propulsion and control, I guess, kind of in those straight lines. Now, I think you do actually feel a little bit, you can see the sort of the cutaways that Adi have here, and it does sort of roll you out a little bit to the lateral side if you're falling sort of too far back on your heels. And the only other thing I will say in these races, a couple of them were sort of quite twisty and turny on the course, particularly kind of the half marathon. And one thing I found is that when I sort of was going around corners, my foot would almost kind of slide off the main kind of footbed of that Light Strike Pro foam, and for the next 2 or 3 strides I'd have to sort of adjust and try and land my foot and get it back onto the bed before I could really engage it properly and get that kind of response and energy return and punch out of the foam again. But in a straight line, when you're doing that, I think these are really up there with some of the kind of best, I think, most joyful kind of shoes that I've ever raced in. I really like the strung uppers, super comfortable, really no troubles at all in terms of kind of blistering and foothold. Yeah, much better than the Adios Pro 3 for me on that. And I think what Adidas has done here with the Prime X Strung is make a shoe, obviously with a whacking great stack of foam, that races really, really well, and really interesting one to go out and chase those kind of half marathons and those marathons. So would I choose this for my A race in the future? Well, I see no reason why not. It's a toss-up between this one here and the Alpha Fly for me for kind of all-out kind of efficiency, pace. I have to say I've still got a soft spot for the Vaporfly for being a kind of, I guess, what is now feels like a more minimal but fast kind of connected ratio that keeps you on the ground, but absolutely would consider this for my A races.
Okay, I've got Tom here now to talk about his races. Now, Tom has done a lot of talking about his races this autumn. In fact, there's a full video dedicated to all the PBs he set in the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, but let's quickly go through it here as well, Tom, for this video. You like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, do you?
A little bit, yeah. It's probably my favourite ratio of all time, actually. So, yeah, safe to say I like it.
So what races have you done in it this autumn? Okay,
so I have done the 5K was the LGN advertising 5K in Regent's Park. 10K, I've done a couple of 10Ks, but the main one I did was Littlehampton 10K. 10 mile was Hectorton Show 10 mile. The half marathon was Pleshy Half, which I did with you, and then I did Chicago Marathon in it.
And it's performed very well across all these distances. We know that. Have you noticed it performing better at shorter or longer distances at all?
I don't think. I think it's best at marathon distance. I noticed it that really coming into its own. I really enjoyed it at marathon distance, but I think it's great at all distances. I think that's the strength of the shoe. You can use it for anything, but I really do think for me, at marathon distance, it just was the perfect shoe.
That's interesting. So I like the shoe a lot as well, but I found it best actually, well, again, for any distance, I enjoy doing a marathon in it. We'll talk about that later, but I do think it in terms of compared to other shoes, I think where it really stands out is at short distances because it is very nimble. But yeah, well, we might as well talk about the marathon quickly. You ran a 2:55, first sub 3, first time you trained properly. So yeah, do you feel all the way through that it felt nimble, supportive, comfortable, just everything you want from a shoe?
No. So what I would say I like about this shoe is that I didn't really feel a lot from it that whole marathon. If I ran Bilbao in the Alpha Fly, I could feel that shoe the whole way, and it feels nice for most of that. But I'm always thinking about the shoe. I'm always thinking about how it feels. With the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, a little bit of bounce at the start, felt nice at the start, but I didn't think about the shoe once throughout that whole marathon, and I think that's why I really liked it. It's something removed from your thought process when you're running a marathon, and it does its job, and just consistent, lovely, enjoyable pace the whole time.
Brilliant. All right, we won't go on too much later. Tom's got a great video out there talking about all his exploits in this shoe. So we'll finish with the killer question, which is, for these race tests this autumn, we've all been using different shoes. Are they going to be your top choice shoes going forward?
I have ran a few other races, not in the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 over the summer, and yes, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 has been an absolute, hands down, the winner for me across all of those shoes. Things like the Adidas Adios Pro 3, which was fine, but I don't desperately want to pick that shoe up to run a race in it. Puma Fast R Nitro Elite, I did a park run in, and it was fine, but again, I wouldn't want to pick it up for anything else. And there's a few other shoes as well, like the New Balance SC Elite V3, which I did 10k in the other day, which I enjoyed, but again, it's not even getting close to the Pro 3 for me.
Fair enough. So Tom will be sticking with that going forward. Well, there's the the Saucony Elite shoe coming out at some point. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Oh, I can't even imagine a shoe better than this at the moment. But if it is, blimey, that's me sorted.
So that's it. That's our run through of the carbon shoes we used for race season in the second half of 2022. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Do go check out our full carbon shoe video if you want more details on any shoes or all of the shoes. And like I say, check out any individual race video if you want more details on how those went. Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.